Who are you? This question is a matter of the highest importance. When Jesus came to earth, he claimed that the entire destiny of every man, woman, and child would depend upon how they viewed him. If his claims are true, the decisions we make about Jesus will determine whether we spend eternity with him or without him. Nothing could be more important. Peter Joseph produced a film entitled Zeitgeist. The film is broken into several parts. The first part, and the only part we will be focusing on, deals with the Christian religion. The film specifically argues that Christianity is mainly derived from other religions, astronomical assertions, astrological myths, and tradition, which in turn were derived or shared elements from other traditions. It continues by arguing that the historical Jesus is a literary and astrological hybrid nurtured politically. The work of D.M. Murdoch, author of The Christ Conspiracy, the greatest story ever sold, is used extensively in part 1 of the movie to argue that the concept of Jesus Christ is a myth and states that the Christ story is a fabrication. She also acted as a consultant for part 1 of the movie. So now it is time to take a second look at the Zeitgeist movie.
Furthermore, the character of Jesus being a literary and astrological hybrid is most explicitly a plagiarization of the Egyptian sun god Horus. For example, inscribed about 3,500 years ago on the walls at the Temple of Luxor in Egypt are images of the Annunciation, the Immaculate Conception, the birth, and the adoration of Horus. The images begin with Thoth announcing to the Virgin Isis that she will conceive Horus, then Neph, the Holy Ghost, impregnating the Virgin, and then the virgin birth and the adoration. This is exactly the story of Jesus' miracle conception. In fact, the literary similarities between the Egyptian religion and the Christian religion are staggering.
As already stated in Part 1b, Horus and Jesus have very little in common. The phrase Immaculate Conception is a Roman Catholic belief which refers to the birth of Mary, not Jesus, so Zeitgeist is using the wrong terminology for what I think it means, which is the spiritual, asexual conception of a Son of God. An Immaculate Conception could not have appeared in any Egyptian myth anyway, since that phrase refers to the fact that Mary was, unlike all other human beings, and hence by divine miracle, born without sin and kept clean of all sin, at least until she gave birth to Jesus, and this is a bizarre idea, that entails a view of sin, history, and human nature utterly alien to Egyptian religion. The Luxor inscription does not depict impregnation by a spirit, but involves very real sex. Indeed, the narrative borders on softcore porn, and the woman involved is the mythical queen of Egypt in an archetypal sense, not Isis per se. Zeitgeist also gets the story fairly garbled. Panel 8. When the ankh is touched to the queen's nose does not depict an impregnation. The queen is already long pregnant in that scene. In fact, she is already showing. Instead, it is the birth that is announced then, not the conception, and Neph then proceeds to impart the God's soul into the divine fetus, using the ankh. Perhaps this indicates quickening, but at any rate the fetus was already there when this happens. Amun, not Thoth, announces the conception. And it can hardly have come as any surprise to the queen, since they just did it. Neph only forms the fetus and the soul and unites them, he does not impregnate the queen. Amun does that, the old-fashioned way, and the adoration scene only involves important state officials or perhaps lesser divinities. The narrative is unclear. Not kings or magi. Neither of which, technically speaking, existed in Egypt anyway except the pharaoh, whom we could call a king, but he is not one of the three figures Zeitgeist refers to, and there were sorcerers in Egypt, but no such identification is made at Luxor. The cycle depicted at Luxor does not match up in the same sequence with the Christian narrative. The Annunciation follows the conception in the Egyptian cycle, but they do happen in the same panel. For technical reasons in Egyptian morality and law, the girl could not know she was having sex with a god, rather than her real husband, until it was too late, and so it was necessary to have the Annunciation follow the conception in order to maintain propriety, so that the queen did nothing immoral. Thus, the difference here reflects the difference in culture. For the Jews, even a mistake would be no excuse for Mary, so the impregnation had to be asexual, whereas no such problems arose for the Egyptians.
In fact, the literary similarities between the Egyptian religion and the Christian religion are staggering.
They are not, since there are no similarities. Therefore, this statement is absolutely false.